he has the first question there, all right? What is it? Name and how did you get into this?
So Will Ridenhour, or Willie Ridenhour. A lot of my friends call me Willie Ridenhour, so I'm called Will. I'm from Albemarle, North Carolina. Been military, so moved around a lot, but North Carolina is my home.
Very nice. So you were born and raised in Albemarle?
Born and raised in Albemarle and joined the military at 18 years old and was stationed at Fort Bragg in 2002. So.
What do you do for the Army?
Mechanic or maintenance management.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. How long have you been in service?
Almost 16 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you're a warrant officer?
Warrant officer, yes.
Very nice. 16 years? You're with division?
Yes.
82nd?
With 82nd.
Okay, well cool. Well, very nice. Yeah. 4 more years in service. What do you plan on doing after service? Or you plan on going past 20?
As of right now, maybe looking at 24 years. A lot of variables there with life and promotions and room for growth, but 20 to 24 years, yes.
Very nice.
If I get promoted this year.
Well, God willing.
He's in control.
Absolutely. He absolutely is. I don't know what the next question is.
I've been racing legend cars for about 5 years, give or take a little bit. Been racing for 25, 27 years-ish. Started racing go-karts when I was about 7 years old. In the military, obviously interfered with that for a while. But yeah, been racing legend cars for about 5 years. Started off on asphalt in Washington State, and then when we moved back to North Carolina in 2016, started racing dirt last year.
Where were you before you came stationed?
Before being at Fort Bragg was at Fort Lewis, Washington.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I raced asphalt out there at South Sound Speedway out there, and some other tracks, but generally just raced at the local track there. So.
Now, what got you into racing?
Family. My dad, when I was born, my dad raced go-karts, and my brother raced, and then when I was old enough, I started racing, and it's something we did as a family growing up my whole life. That's all, every weekend, that's what we did, was at the racetrack as a family, so.
That's interesting. Do you still have your original go-kart?
No, that thing's long gone. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it was lime green. I think it was lime green. But yeah, it's gone. I don't know, it actually might be hanging in the roof of my dad's garage or building. I'm not sure. I know it was down there at one point in time, but I don't know if it's there or not. I'll have to look next time I go.
Does your son race?
He did race. He started when he was about 4. He raced for on and off a little bit for a couple years, but if you ask him right now, he's retired. He's at 7, he's retired, so he's going to take a break and he's going to just be retired is what he tells you. So,
that's interesting.
Retired at a young age.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. That's pretty cool. What's next?
What are requirements to this sport? Requirements for racing, I guess just, go fast, turn left. You gotta have a desire to it. It's really, if you want to do racing and be competitive, you really have to have a desire to do it, because it's time consuming. It's time consuming because it can be expensive. You have to want to do it. Or, it's okay to just go have fun. I have a lot of fun doing it, and just, when we was racing in Washington, it was a lot more, weren't as competitive, so it was actually kind of nice. Now I think I'm a little more competitive, maybe too competitive with it sometimes. It's really time consuming. But, as far as requirements, you just gotta, anyone can do it, you just gotta want to. That's really what it comes down to. Good people backing you also really helps. My wife and kids and family backing me, and my dad always believed in me, so that stuff helps.
We noticed last Saturday at the Winter Circle, the first thing you did was that you thanked our Almighty.
Yeah, that's a definitely give the glory to God. I know with the success we've had this year, none of that would be possible without God. Just the resources we've had available to us this year, more so than any other year. has been extremely helpful when you're talking about racing on a competitive level. You know, and I know none of that comes by chance. I know it isn't anything that is just I take for granted for sure. It's definitely without Christ in my life and trying to race for a greater purpose, I'm sure none of it would be possible for sure.
And that's why you named you numbered your car?
Yeah, 316 Motorsports, John from John 316. That's where it all drives from, you know, for God talking about how much He just loves us, He loves this world, and He gave His Son for us to be saved. You know, just call upon His name for salvation and that's where that comes from. Just
oh, absolutely.
For Jesus Christ down on that cross for us. So.
How long have you used 316?
Well, I raced 19 for a while because my wife said when I bought my first race car, that if I was going to race a car, it had to be number 19. And our motto back then was, "Do you know him?" And that was kind of the theme back then. And at some point, you know, I always had John 3:16 on the car from day one. I always had John 3:16 on it, and I also had Psalms 3 verses 5 and 6 at one point in time. But John 3:16 was always a theme, and I think at the end of 2014 or the end of 2015, we just decided to call it 316 Motorsports, and just kind of stuck, and that's what we've stuck with. And now I guess that's our branded name, so to say. And then 2 years ago, I guess beginning last year, when I got the red car that currently race, we decided to put the number 316 on it instead of 19. The wife had to make a sacrifice.
Well, that's nice. Because I asked, and not to insult you whatsoever, I asked 2 other drivers prior to getting with you as I was coming through the pits. And the second guy I asked, the first guy just flat out told me no, he's not interested. So the second guy, he said, well, I'm not sure if I'm really interested in, but I would be sure to ask you. And one of the first things that you asked me when I introduced myself was, what church do I go to? And that really meant a lot to me. You know, that honestly did. So if you can unfold your arms so I can see your shirt, you know, 316 Motorsports, that is just wonderful. You know? So I can tell it means a lot to you, and it meant a lot to me that you asked me that too. Honestly, it did.
Okay.
I want you to know that.
I'm glad. I wish originally the purpose behind it was to be ministry. You know, I mean, it is still a ministry to me, and I still, you know, can ask many people at the track and other drivers anytime I have an opportunity to talk about Christ with them or their salvation. I do, but and that's why I say the fun part versus the competitive part. You know, you're there competitive, but in the back of my mind is always the ministry side of it, and sometimes the competitive edge takes over rather than the ministry edge. So, but I think most drivers know that if they ever needed something or prayer or anything, that I'd be there for them. So,
what I liked was the camaraderie that when you broke a ball joint,
yes,
and other racers came and wanted to help out and do anything they could.
Yeah, that's one great thing about the small, short local tracks is normally, you know, guys are there to help you out regardless. Even, you know, some people you don't typically get along with on the track, you know, many times off the track, or if you have an issue, no one wants to win a race because their competitor isn't in it. You know, if you win a race, you want to beat the best and beat the one that's there and competitive. So guys are always willing to help each other out, and that's one thing that I really like about the local short tracks is guys. It is a camaraderie. You know, last week we didn't have a whole lot of cars at the track, and the ones that was there, we grilled out and had a good time in fellowship, and I think we had more fun in that race than any others because it was just relaxing, and we hung out and grilled and laughed about it and didn't work our tails off trying to go beat one another.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Very nice. What we got?
Finances. As far as for finances for racing, I mean, I guess that's a lot of variables. You know, for legend cars, you know, the initial buy-in can be really expensive when you get into any sport. You need quite, probably $10,000 you'd be looking at to get into a legend car and buy the required safety apparel and some of the minimum stuff to keep a car going. But I'm sure there's guys that spend way more than that. But usually your sustainment costs, you could probably get away with a $2,000 to $3,000 budget a year. Sponsors really help. Sponsors of local businesses, they don't know how much it means to a racer. If it's $100 or $200, or hey, I'll pay your entry fee for the races or whatever, paying gate fees, just the little stuff. That stuff is huge because the couple $100 I have tied into getting in a track or whatever can now be buy a set of tires or buy a tire or maintain the car. So the finances is definitely a determining factor for many teams on how competitive they can be. A lot of drivers have more potential to be better than what they are. They just don't have the backing that it takes to get to that level. And that's where we've been very blessed this year. The 316 Motorsports team has been very blessed for people trusting me. I do work for other guys. I do a little bit of part sales and stuff. So a lot of guys trust me, and it's not taken for granted for sure.
Well, definitely your experience in working with the military, being a mechanic, coming in to be a mechanic for the military, and now you're a warrant officer, so you have the logistics aspects and everything. All that experience, and then your faith, really, you have two great things working for you.
Yeah, logistics in the military is everything. The infantry guys won't tell you that, and the helicopter pilots will tell you, but logistics is what wins wars. So I think as being a warrant, I think that's one thing that I'm not scared to go out there and ask questions and figure out what the best approach is to things, or talk to people and get involved with other areas of racing other than just going on track and riding in circles. So yeah, and my faith, as we've discussed, is definitely the rock that kind of grounds me there, keeps me humble for sure. Because it'd be easy with the year that we've had to get a big head and gloat about it, but I try to stay very humble about it because I know it's not my doings. It's definitely a blessing from God for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, very good.
What are releases from the track? As far as releases, basically you sign a waiver when you go in the track, and you sign away basically saying you're not going to sue the track if you get in a wreck. That's about it. As far as for tracks, those guys track promoters are what keeps the sport going. Without those guys, willing to make the sacrifices they do to keep the sport going, it'd be tough for us to do what we do. So it's pretty awesome for local tracks to put the time in that they do. Where do you race? I race at a lot of different places. Primarily, I've raced in a lot of different places. Right now, though, basically just Rockfish Speedway and Fayetteville Speedway here in the Fayetteville, Rayford area. I have raced all over the country. I've raced all up and down the East Coast back when I was a kid, go-karting. Raced, we raced national events. We raced Southeast events, a lot of dirt series stuff. That's when I started in Legends. I was in Washington, so I raced in the state of Washington. I think I did a little bit of Idaho, a track in Idaho. But yeah, basically North Carolina right now, and that's it. Your background besides. So background racing, so we started in karting with my dad and my family. We raced, and I got into drag racing motorcycles when I was probably 19, 20 years old. I drag raced motorcycles until we moved to, I was stationed in DC for a while, drag raced motorcycles when I was there, and then had that to went to California, and then when I moved to Washington in 2013 is when I got back to circle track racing. Overall future, win races. I don't know. For future racing, when I retire, I might look into starting a business in it of some sort if the opportunity is there. Definitely want to keep racing. I love the sport. I love the camaraderie.
Do you plan on going to another level of racing?
I would love to, but when we talked about finances and resources and all that stuff, it gets expensive. And legend cars, it's a great sport. And Legends is actually a fairly inexpensive way to race and still race at the tracks with a lot of the bigger cars. It's a great starter sport for kids, for teenagers. I'd love to go to something bigger, but I just don't think the finances would ever allow it or resources. But my God's not limited, so God may provide a way one day.
There you go.
So I would love it, but the fact of the matter is I'm not getting any younger. That ship may have sailed for that big ride to come along, but I'll keep my options open.
What we noticed was, I don't know what level or what classification it was, but there were a lot of children or even a young girl.
Yeah, the junior sprints. Yeah, that is a very cool series that Rockfish started this year. Was the first year of those. It's 8 to 15 years old. It's a very serious for a young kid to start in, to learn the basics of racing. I mean, if it's just learning the process of going on the track and off the track and learning the flags and learning, the whole race process, that is a very cool series that Bill Dobier and Rockfish has put on. I mean, there's a lot of other series like that out there. You got the go-karts, which is what I started in. So, but yeah, that's a cool series that they do there.
Yeah, because I remember they were talking some young girl that was in the winner's circle.
Yeah, Brianna, I think is her name. She's won like 7 or 8 races this year. She's whooping up on the boys for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think your son, when he gets a little older, would want to get into the junior sprints?
I ask him about every other week. Hey, you want to race the junior sprints next year? No, I'm retired. So we'll see. My nephew was racing as well. My brother's son, he was racing go-karts for a while, and he retired as well at 8 years old. So now he's talking about getting back in it next year. He'll be 10. So we'll see. I don't want to push him. It's whatever he wants to do. Because he goes back to in the beginning we talked about it's something you have a desire to want to do it. If you go in it half-hearted, it'll show for sure. So if he wants to do it, that's great. I'll support it. If he don't, that's great. We'll do whatever he wants to do.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Within reason.
Absolutely.
Ever got hurt? I have been in some pretty wild rides. One that sticks out particularly was the beginning of 2015 season in Washington. I got hooked in the right rear and it put me head on into the wall. Car hit so hard it kind of did a 180 and smashed the front and the back. That was a pretty wild ride, but these legend cars are extremely safe. I mean, I walked away from it a little banged up, but not bad. I've took some go-karts, I've took some end-over-end flips, barrel rolls. I really can't think of a time that I've been really hurt, hospitalized or anything like that. Just normal, banged up a little bit. And then the other question we skipped was, what does your family think of doing this? So
Shelly, why don't you sit down and you can...
So my family, I asked them earlier this question, and my son said that it was fantastic, and he thinks it's fantastic. My daughter said that it was inconvenient, because it is time consuming for the family as well, and they make a big sacrifice. And last weekend my wife was there, she had a thing, and I called her, like, I really appreciate when you come to the track with me, because all these things that at the end of the night, cleaning up, that can be a task sometimes, and just the little things. It's nice to have my family there and for them to be there supporting. My wife's answer was it was time consuming, which it is. I spend a lot of time in the garage in the evenings until midnight sometimes, 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it is definitely burdensome on the family aspect. We have our family night though usually, and there's definitely I only have my certain nights of the week that I can go out there and play with my toys.
That's interesting. That's funny. Well, very nice. Well, I don't know how long we've been doing this. Let's see.